let's just dive right into it. Today, we're untangling the absolute chaos that is the lore of arguably the world's most terrifying doll. We've pored over the source material, sifted through the different eras, and we're putting this entire chilling story into one clear-cut chronological timeline for this explainer. If you've ever found yourself kind of lost trying to connect all these demonic dots, well, you're in the right place. Okay, let's kick this eerie mystery off with two very haunting words. Find me. It's kind of crazy, right? These seemingly innocent words just scrawled on little notes were the ultimate catalyst. They literally triggered a decades-long nightmare. It is wild how such a simple, brief message could crack the door open to such profound darkness. Which leads us to the big central question of this explainer. How does a grieving father's completely harmless, handcrafted toy turn into a literal beacon for pure, concentrated demonic energy? To really answer that, we've got to strip away the myths and just look at the cold, hard chronological events of this doll's existence. To truly grasp this demon's evolution, we're restructuring the scattered lore. We're going to follow the doll's linear journey through four very distinct eras. We'll go from year 0 with the Mullins family through two separate 12-year leaps, all the way to its, well, highly infamous resting place in the Warrens Occult Museum. Let's start right at the beginning with the doll's unbelievably tragic origin. Long before the hauntings and all the sheer chaos, this whole thing started with a devastating heartbreak. Mr. Mullins was this master doll maker, right? He and his wife suffered the unimaginable when their young daughter, Annabelle, was hit by a car and killed. They were just so completely desperate to see their little girl again that they made a massive mistake. They willingly invited a spirit into the doll. They totally thought it was their sweet daughter, but yeah, they realized way too late that it was actually a demonic entity just tricking its way into our world. Which brings us to the orphanage era. So fast forward exactly 12 years from that initial tragedy. The Mullins house is now secluded, and they've opened it up as a shelter for orphan girls. And this is where basic human curiosity just ruins everything. Janice, an orphan who suffers from polio, starts finding those exact find me notes we mentioned earlier. Driven by this dark manipulation, she breaks the rules, unlocks the forbidden closet, finds the doll, and boom, she unwittingly unleashes the very demon that Mr. Mullins had spent years desperately trying to keep locked away. I mean, would you open a locked door in a creepy old house? Probably not, but she did. And the entity wastes absolutely no time. It briefly appears as the spirit of the little girl, Annabelle, but then quickly drops that innocent disguise. It morphs into this horrifying demonic figure and drops a terrifying demand. I need your soul. It physically drags poor Janice into the darkness and forcefully possesses her weakened body. Now we're moving into the cultist's deadly return. Okay, so the possessed Janice manages to escape the chaos of the orphanage, and she eventually gets adopted by the Higgins family. We're jumping forward another 12 years now, right into the late 1960s, for a really bloody reunion. And this is the brilliant, tragic twist of the timeline. That innocent little girl from the 1950s, she is the exact same person as the adult cultist who violently breaks into her adoptive parents' home to slaughter them. During this completely horrific night, Janice and a fellow cult member attack their neighbors, Mia and John Form, and it reaches this deeply unsettling climax. A severely injured Janice actually slits her own throat while clutching that familiar porcelain doll. As a single drop of her blood drips right into the doll's eye, the demonic entity transfers straight back into its original terrifying vessel. Now that the demon is back in the doll, it's time to demand a sacrifice. The doll is now, horrifyingly, in the hands of the totally unsuspecting Form family, and the demon immediately begins its systematic psychological torture. As a local priest breaks it down in our source material, the demon follows a very specific 3-step playbook. Step 1, seek a vulnerable host. Step 2, completely break them down with unrelenting fear. And Step 3, claim the soul. Because remember, a demon can't just take a soul by force. It actually has to be offered up willingly. So you see the demon escalating its attacks with just terrifying precision. It uses poltergeist activity to exhaust Mia. A sewing machine starts running entirely on its own. The doll impossibly reappears inside the house after John literally threw it in the outside trash. And it gets worse. The demon starts aggressively targeting Mia's newborn baby, Leah. It even goes as far as physically attacking the priest inside his own church. It's showing off its massive growing power. It pushes Mia right to the absolute brink, fully expecting her to sacrifice herself to save her baby. But we get a massive twist. It's actually Mia's friend, the bookshop owner Evelyn, who makes the ultimate sacrifice. Evelyn is seeking redemption for a past tragedy of her own, so she grabs the doll and leaps out a window to her death. She gives up her soul to satiate the demon, which temporarily halts its reign of terror over the Form family. After that, the doll vanishes, eventually leading us to the Warrens' infamous haunted museum. Right, so following Evelyn's death, the doll goes missing, eventually terrorizing two young nurses before it gets seized by renowned paranormal investigators, Ed and Lorraine Warren. And the Warrens quickly realize a much more horrifying truth. The doll isn't just possessed by one demon. No, it acts as a massive beacon for other dark entities. Recognizing how incredibly dangerous this is, they lock it up inside a highly specific case, one built out of consecrated glass salvaged straight from Trinity Church just to contain the evil. But, human error strikes again. It always does. The Warrens head out for an overnight trip, and a grieving teenager named Daniela, who's friends with the babysitter, sneaks in to the locked artifact room. She's desperate to apologize to the spirit of her recently deceased dad, so she breaks literally every safety rule in the museum. She's touching the artifacts, and catastrophically, she unlocks Annabelle's sacred glass cage and just leaves the door wide open. Which begs the terrifying question, can this evil actually be contained? With that sacred glass door left open, the demonic beacon is instantly relit. The Warrens' house transforms into an inescapable nightmare for Daniela, the babysitter Mary Ellen, and the Warrens' young daughter Judy. Because Annabelle is a beacon, everything else in that museum comes alive. We literally see the terrifying spirit of the ferryman, this dark figure with coins over his eyes, emerge right out of the shadows. He starts relentlessly hunting the girls through the twisting hallways. And at the exact same time, another deeply evil entity gets involved. A violent spirit trapped inside a blood-soaked wedding dress corners them. It's absolute proof that Annabelle hasn't just escaped. She has systematically woken up every single curse, demon, and aggressive spirit locked inside that room. The sheer, relentless pacing of these synchronized attacks is wild. It shows us exactly how insanely powerful the Annabelle entity has become since Mr. Mullins made it decades prior. It has fed on so much fear and so many souls over the years that it turns a normal suburban house into a literal labyrinth of demonic energy, where the normal laws of reality just completely stop applying. But the girls don't just run. They actually use the Warrens' own occult knowledge to fight back. They realize you cannot kill this demon. Absolute containment is the only option. So in this desperate, incredibly physical struggle against multiple spirits, they somehow manage to wrestle the doll back into the Trinity glass case and slam that sacred door shut. Finally, the beacon is extinguished and the chaotic spirits instantly drop dormant. But as we wrap up this explainer, we're left with a really chilling realization. Think about it. The demonic entity that was born in Mr. Mullins' workshop, it was never actually destroyed. It wasn't vanquished. It is merely sitting there, waiting patiently inside a fragile glass box in a basement. Which leaves us to wonder, just how long can a simple pane of glass truly hold back ultimate evil? Thanks for diving into this timeline with me today. Keep asking questions and stay curious.